call the meeting back to order. We started with the executive session on 3 different topics. Since we'll return to public session, I'll ask if you're able to stand and join me in the Pledge of Allegiance.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Welcome, everybody. Next up is public comment. Does anyone have anything not on tonight's agenda that they wish to talk about? Seeing no one, I will move on to reports from school committee members. Is there any school committee member? Zeke, go right ahead. You can start us off.
So I just wanted to say that there is a student choice event at Cafe Milano's this Saturday at 9 to 12. Students can come and learn about the importance of local government, sign their name on a mock nomination paper, and once they receive a sticker, they can walk into Milano's and they can show the sticker and they can get 10% off at Milano's. So just wanted to let everyone be aware of that. It's open to all students, so effectively there's no age limit.
Teresa, you had
I just wanted to say thank you to Mr. Stevens, since this will be his last public school committee meeting as he's leaving us after tonight and the elections on April 2nd. So just I've learned a lot from you over the last couple of years, and I appreciate your time, and I thank you for your volunteerism.
Rich, go ahead.
Sure. I think this is probably a great time to do it. Yeah, I just wanted to thank Greg for all the time and honestly mentorship over the past few years. I've learned an awful lot on how to be a more how to be a committee member that contributes more and how to do things the right way from you. So thank you. Yeah, and also, I mean, I should respect the fact that that it's very possible I won't be here after this week as well, because my name is on the ballot. And so just wanted to thank all the committee for, we worked through some really difficult topics, I think, over the past couple of years. And I think I've grown closer to every single one of you as a result of these past couple of years. And so I just wanted to thank you all for being good collaborative partners in this whole thing. So, thanks.
Mike, go right ahead.
Thank you. I just wanted to say thank you to both of you. I think, Rich, you've done a really great job at reminding me that people don't live in the teaching world. And so we have to, explain all of our acronyms and, review all of those things and talk about all these things because you just live it and you forget that it's not common knowledge. And I just want to say thank you to Greg, too. He's done a really great job at just helping me understand the laws and everything. And he'll, make sure that we're doing everything correctly and ask those questions to make sure that we are and that we're on track. So I just want to say thank you to both of you guys. Yeah.
I will finish up with thanking Greg, not only for his service in the school committee, but Greg is a very good friend. I've appreciated over the time that you and I have hung out as friends and watched our kids grow and done things together, like coach our children. It was always good to have you serve with me and sort of ground me at times, and I really appreciate that about you. Greg and I have been through a lot of things together and been there, and a while ago Greg moved away for a little while but came back, and it was just happy to have him back rather than another state away. So Greg, you've been fantastic. I'm happy that you're having some free time now given all the other stuff that you do, but really appreciated your time here, and we'll continue to appreciate your friendship.
I'd just like to say,
Zeke wants to say.
Yeah, so I see you every Wednesday, so I will not miss you, but I will miss you here. You have been a great teacher and a great mentor to me. So thank you.
thank you. So yeah, I'll just say ditto. No, just kidding. That's an old Bob Newhart joke. I really appreciate all the help. I mean, when I first was a new person 6 years ago, certainly Rich, but the current members who aren't here anymore, I'd like to thank them, because this committee, since I've been on it, we've worked together. We've had some disagreements, particularly in my first few years. We had a lot of disagreements, but we always work together. And I think when we finally come to a decision, it's a group that has come to a decision. And I really feel that it's a special group that way. So I will miss being on it. It was a hard decision to decide to not run again, but it did. I think Rich said it best. I just needed to step back for a little bit and have some more of my own time. But I'm sure there's a good race coming up. So please, everybody get out and vote on April 2nd because it's important. Thank you.
Thank you.
Oh, I'd like to also thank Superintendent Lynch and Ms. Hickey. They both are just, whenever there's a lot that goes on between meetings, and both of them have always been right there with the answers, willing to talk, willing to sit down with me. So thank you guys particularly, and everybody else. So thank you.
Even though tonight's your last night, you're still not done. You still have 2 negotiating sessions with me.
more
So enjoy.
sessions.
With that, the MEA presidents couldn't make it tonight, and the student rep couldn't make it tonight because she is studying for an AP exam, and I thought that was really important. And so with that, I'll turn it over to the superintendent.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Good evening, committee members, and good evening those folks in the audience who could make it tonight. My first report this evening is COVID-19 update, and I like to, as I have in the past, sort of track us through. Back in September, we were at 25 active cases in the district. On January 7th, we were up to 139. And then on January 14th, 76, January 26th, down to 47. February 3rd, down to 22. February 17th, down to 10. At the last meeting, we were down to 4. And as of today, we are at 0. We have 0 active cases in the district, which is a number we have not seen since the beginning. So, which is great. And I congratulate everyone involved. And I'm just glad this thing hopefully is behind us because we're in a better place without it, certainly. In the town, we did get a report this morning from Jacqueline, the nurse Jacqueline, or as Paula Magnasco calls her, Nurse Jackie. And there were 11 positive cases, PCR positive cases in the town over the last 2 weeks. And just a reminder, those PCR positive cases are the results of official lab proctor testing. 3 of the 11 positive cases in the last 2 weeks were under age 18. 1 of the 3 was younger than school age. Middleborough's positivity rate, PCR testing data only, remains at 0.01% for the town. And there are no reports of severe illnesses. And basically those numbers that were sent to DEAS included a faculty member who had been affected, but that faculty member has now cleared, and we move on. So those numbers are as of today, and happily to report that number is 0, and hopefully we'll keep it at 0. We will maintain the dashboard and continue to maintain the dashboard for the community, and we'll continue to update it on Friday. It's usually updated about when Sean gets to it, which is usually about 4:30 or 5 o'clock p.m. on Friday. So that's the latest COVID update as far as the school system and the community goes. Are there any questions on that from anyone?
Any questions? Any questions from anybody? Seeing none.
Good news. I moved on now to the introduction of the new curriculum team for the Middleborough Public Schools and invite them to come on down. They have chosen this evening to introduce themselves, which is great. And we welcome them here tonight, led by Dr. Terry Markulitis, who will be the first to speak. And they have a small slide presentation for you on what they plan to do and how they plan to accomplish it and what they're all about. So welcome, good evening. Thank you for coming, and we look forward to hearing what you have to say.
Hi, everybody. Thank you so much for letting us speak tonight. We're very excited to be here. I think we're a little nervous as well in front of all these faces, but we do appreciate the opportunity. Just to give you a brief bit about what we're going to do, we're going to introduce ourselves. We're going to talk a little bit about our entry plan that will be ready in about 3 or 4 months, we hope, fingers crossed. And then we're going to just walk you through some of our core beliefs. And then we will finish up with some of the priorities that we have identified thus far and hope that you are in accordance and agreement with those. and then we'll take some questions, and that's it. So I will start with myself. I am Dr. Terry Markulitis. I've been in education for about 20 years. I have a master's in education. I have my doctorate in curriculum leadership and instruction. My research was done on professional learning communities. I was going to say PLCs, but I heard the acronym comment earlier, so I changed that. And I really focused on improving writing instruction through those PLCs. And if you look at Middleborough data, that's going to be a very helpful thing for this district. So we're looking forward to that work. I have 2 children who are 26 and 23, so really no longer children. I am very excited to start this work. And with that, I will introduce Sam Dormady.
I'm Sam Dormady. As a former classroom teacher and literacy coach here in Middleborough, I'm very pleased to be in this new district role. Am I too close?
Love it.
I most recently received my master's from St. Leo University for educational leadership. My master's before that was from Fitchburg University as a reading specialist. And I did my undergrad in elementary ed at Boston University. I have 2 college-age boys. One's at UNH and one is at Roger Williams. And in my spare time, I love riding my horses, playing ice hockey, and teaching and practicing yoga.
And this is Kelly Stukenberg.
Oh, here, you're up. I'm up. Hello.
And this is Kelly Stukenberg.
Hi, I'm Kelly, and very gracious to have me here tonight. Thank you for that. I am coming from a long history of working in curriculum, about 18 years of whether being a department head, an associate principal, or an assistant director of curriculum for science, and now a STEM coordinator, which STEM is science, technology, engineering, and mathematics. I'm very excited to come on board here. I love to work with teachers and help them to grow and to see that aha moment of inquiry and discovery with all ages of children. I received my bachelor's degree of science in biology from St. Michael's, and then a master's of arts in teaching from Northeastern, which is a concentration of education and graduate work in biology. I have 2 children, one daughter and a son. They will be 20 and 18 this year. And I am a lifelong learner. I play soccer, played last night. And so if you see me limping about, it's just because my brain thinks it's 18, but my body is not. So thank you.
Thank you. Okay, so just a brief overview of the entry plan work that we're going to be doing. First of all, I'm thrilled to lead this team. I think we're very fortunate in the people that are in these positions with the experience that they just spoke to. I think we're going to get a lot accomplished in a very quick time. Since I started in February, I've been welcomed into this really proud and thriving community. It has been a really, truly wonderful experience. As a new administrator in this district, I need to learn as much about the community as possible. And to do so, I have to speak with all of the stakeholders. I've been interviewing principals, teachers. I've yet to speak with students. That's next on my list, as well as parents and other members of the community. It's a long process. There's a lot of people that we need to speak to go into this entry plan so that everybody has a voice. It is something that we really truly believe in. We want to make sure that we represent the needs of the whole community. So as we start this work, those interviews will kind of guide our work as soon as we notice some trends in what people are saying and thinking as what they identify as their needs and also as their wants. And everybody has different needs and wants, so putting those all together does take some time. So as I said, my goals are to learn from the community, build strong and trusting relationships. And I think we do that by listening to the community members and making sure that we honor what they're saying in our work.
The entry plan represents work that will continue for the next 6 months, and then even beyond that. So this is just our initial way in, and it really speaks to the work that will come after. Speaking to that, our core values really drive this entry plan. I've been doing a lot of talking lately, so my voice is a little husky. Our core educational values, there are quite a few. I'm just going to touch on them briefly. We believe that all students deserve access to the best education that we can provide. We also believe that all students can learn and achieve at their highest potential when given the necessary supports, challenging curriculum, and that curriculum is delivered through research-based strategies. We really think that education should focus on the whole child and include opportunities for exploration, inquiry, creativity, communication, and reflection. All of those pieces don't happen at the same time, but they should all happen in a student's educational experience. The Massachusetts standards are the foundation for our curriculum. It is not our curriculum, but it is the foundation for which we build our curriculum upon. Teachers are the most important part of this. They are the ones responsible for providing the high quality instruction and curriculum. They need to be supported by us in this endeavor through their job embedded professional development. And this needs to support teachers' emotional well-being as well as their personal and professional goals. And that is something we will work really hard to do, make sure that professional development meets the needs of our teachers, as well as supports our district goals. Educational leaders, which is all of us in this room, need to promote growth among the teaching staff by providing professional development opportunities that meet their needs, but also improve student learning outcomes for all of our students. So that is really our driving force. It is about the students and what's best for students and how can we get each student to receive the best education that they deserve. Yeah, in agreement?
Mhm.
Okay, so moving rather quickly through priorities. This list is just a really quick dip into the work that we have started. It is an extensive list. We are currently in the process of adopting a literacy curriculum for kindergarten through 8th grade. It is the Fontes and Pinnell curriculum. It is not perfect, and what we are doing right now is beginning to look at the areas that are working, that are effective for our students, and those areas where we may need to readjust and reevaluate what we're doing so that students are getting the best opportunity that we can provide. Next year, we will start to look at math curriculum. This is a really important process for our community. We will be inviting stakeholders from the community to be a part of our review teams. We want to make sure that parents, students, teachers, principals, school committee members, if you'd like to join us, are a part of the teams as we look at different math programs. We're hoping to pilot 2 programs beginning in January for implementation the following year. It's going to be a long process. We want to do it right, which means it's going to take some time. We also need to create vertical articulation teams so that we know that what we're doing has effectiveness all the way through from pre-K to 12. It is not just about improving one area. We have to really look at what our students are leaving pre-K with, what they're leaving kindergarten with, so on and so forth, to make sure that every student is achieving their potential. To do this, we need some data analysis. Excuse me, I need some water.
Want me to pick it up?
Please.
So in order to drive our instruction, as you guys know too, MCAS have been either missing due to COVID or not extremely valid. From,
Thank you.
you good?
Yep, I got it. Okay. Sorry, data analysis. Maybe I don't have it. Okay, data analysis to drive. I don't have it. What was my voice? All right, take it away.
Do you want to? Sure. Are we at data analysis to drive instruction? So of course, we want to make sure that we're looking
I'll get it
at
back.
a lot of not only the classroom data and anecdotal data that we're seeing with our students, but we want teachers to also take a look at norm and standard-based data. We have screeners that we use at all different grade levels, and we may be looking to revise and implement new screeners, especially we look at the high school level. And so we can make informed decisions about instructional changes in the classroom. And this needs to be a constant cycle because with every change of a unit, with every change of a school year and the students in front of you, you need to change up what is going to work best for those kids.
I think I can do this now. I'm really sorry. Like I said, I've been talking so much. I do want to talk about our dyslexia screener that we are bringing in. This is something that the state has really asked us to do, and we are going to be working with Boston General Hospital to bring in Early Bird Screener, which is a dyslexia screener, but it also looks at risk to students who are at risk with reading and also other. Instruction so that we can meet their needs and make sure that they're successful. We have started to look at health curriculum, and I have spoken about this quite a bit lately. We have a few different things that we are looking at. We have a grant that is going to allow us to purchase a curriculum from 6 through 12. We're going to focus on 6 through 10. And we're really looking for the social emotional learning piece to be embedded in this. And we're going to supplement what we have so that we have a really full scope and sequence. We are going to be working on teacher induction and mentoring as well. We have started our building walkthroughs so that we can actually see what's happening, what is being taught, and how it's being taught. And again, as I spoke to you earlier about, we are doing stakeholder interviews. Those are ongoing, and they will be ongoing until we deliver our entry plan in its finality. And hopefully I will have my voice then. Do you have any questions for us?
Hi. Nice to meet you.
Nice to meet you.
I had, a parent had contacted me that seemed to be very much in the kind of literacy model space. And one thing that they brought up was the Fontes and Pinnell, I don't know what, system model. Yeah. And that DESE was recommending that people move away from Fontes and Pinnell and was providing grant money to adopt a different system. And I just wondered if you could help me to understand more what goes into that.
Yeah, I think that's not working out that great. Can you guys hear me with that? Yeah, that's better. Okay, so that's a really big question for the time that we have, but the overview of it is Fontes and Pinnell is a great program. It has its strengths, it has its weaknesses, just like every other curriculum out there. Our job is to make sure that what we are doing is working. And if it is not working, that is where we will supplement. So Fontes and Pinnell is very aware of the criticism, and they have addressed it in several ways. They have created a richer phonics piece, which is one of the biggest concerns about this program, and they have addressed it head on. We are working on the implementation of that at the kindergarten level, right on up through. We don't traditionally deliver phonics instruction at the middle school level unless it's a special case-by-case scenario, and that's students who, for whatever reason, didn't get what they needed when they were in the earlier grades. So we are aware of those weaknesses that have been addressed, and we are looking into them. I think we have to remember that it really is an instruction model, and that instruction model is sound.
DESE does not have a problem with that. What they do have a problem with is the texts. And so that's our job, making sure that the tests that we are giving our teachers and our students are robust, they are diverse, they are complex, the vocabulary is rich, and they cover a variety of genres. We are quite skilled at doing that, and I think we are well positioned to handle anything that is not working. Okay, you're welcome.
Thank you. I was going to ask about that as well, because I think the same parent contacted both of us. Yeah. And yeah.
All right.
So it's very nice to meet you. I know we've emailed a couple of times, and welcome. Can you just speak a little bit more about the plans for the stakeholder interviews as far as parents go? So will you
Sure.
be like reaching out to parents when that is set up, or will we, or like, I don't know how that's going to work.
Sure. So in the past, how I've done it is I usually reach out to the building principals and ask them to get in touch with their parent councils and say that I will be holding these interviews, usually after school, so that parents have an opportunity to kind of drop in. With parents, they tend to be more informal than they are with people who are actually involved in the day-to-day business of Middleborough education. And, you know, it's more a conversation about how do you think Middleborough schools are doing? What more can we do for you? What would you like to see added? What would you like to see changed? What do you think is going well? What would you like to see us improve? And I will be reaching out pretty shortly. And if you guys have a way of contacting groups and you would like to do that as well, I'm open to anything. So, you know, please let Brian know, and I'm happy to work through that.
Great. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Other questions? Yeah. If I could ask, just to get to know you guys a little bit better.
Sure.
What would you guys say that you would specialize in? What's your for each one of you?
Sure. Why don't you start?
I've been a science educator for 23 or 4 years. But I I have worked a lot with technology, as well as I love co-teaching physics with math teachers. So we enjoy doing that quite a bit.
So I was one of the first literacy coaches to be sent through Leslie, and brought that back to HBB at the time. And so I will be focusing on literacy and humanities.
So I've been doing this for quite some time. I have been a curriculum director for quite a few years. My passion is literacy, but that is not to say that history, science, and math, world language, phys ed, what am I forgetting? Arts, music, all of it is so important to the whole child. And so I will be working with all of those groups to make sure that they have the resources they need, and you know, and develop an understanding of all of those different groups. When I say that literacy is my passion, we can't do anything without it. So I will always stand by that, but every piece of it matters. Yeah.
Just another question. We've heard a lot about what sounds like a great system coming our way in the Panorama tool, and you mentioned, you know, obviously data analysis, and I'm guessing that your plans will be centered around that tool as well, or in some way.
That is one of the tools we will be using. We'll also be using observational data. So with Panorama, we'll be using Star 360. We will be using PSATs, AP scores. We'll be looking at MCAS scores, of course. But we have some other pieces that we need to look at, which is common assessments, particularly at the high school level. We will be looking at writing assessments all the way through from pre-K to 12 to make sure that our students are writing for a variety of purposes every day. That's an area that we know we need to look at, and we'll be working on that. So Panorama is a piece of it, and it's a really important piece of it. And it's terrific that we have that. It's going to make our jobs a lot easier. Yeah. Yep.
Does anyone have a question for you? Thank you for coming. We appreciate it.
Thank you for
Thanks
having
for
us.
having us.
Appreciate it.
Thank you, everybody.
Thank you.
Thank
Kelly,
you
it's
for
the
putting
first
up
time
with
I've
my
seen you
voice.
without a mask. Seen you through 4 times, but never without a mask. Mr. Chair, as I move on in my report, I'm going to invite Mr. Ryan Sylvia, our Athletic Department Director, to come on down. Our Athletic Director. You know Ryan, he's been here several times before. Generally at the end of a sports season, he tends to basically sort of report out on the season and the progress and any other updates from the Athletic Department. So welcome, Mr. Sylvia.
Thank you, Mr. Lynch. School committee, thank you for having me tonight. So I have a winter sports update, maybe a little intro to the spring. Basically, this past season, we had 336 participants in the winter sports program, 11 different sports and 16 different teams. One of those teams is a cooperative team with 5 students participating on the Covert High School gymnastics team. From November 29th to February 28th, we had over 670 individual practices and games over the course of the winter season over 3 months. That's not including our strength and conditioning and intramural program. So a very dynamic program, a lot going on every single day. Just even tonight, we still have our majorettes in the middle school cafeteria and gym. So successful year by all means. We also applied for a waiver from the MIAA to allow for middle school students to participate on high school teams in swimming and diving, wrestling, and indoor track. For swimming and diving, the 7th and 8th grade teams, 7th and 8th grade students were granted the waiver. For wrestling and indoor track, it was 8th grade only. First season in the new athletic center at the high school was a success. We had a lot of help making things run smoothly. So a huge thank you to Jim Hutchinson, our facilities director, the head custodians, Garrett Perry, Matt Tarkanian, and really all of the custodial and maintenance staff did an awesome job just making sure the buildings were opened and disarmed and doing everything they do on a daily basis. Also had a number of hourly employees that work the games and events every single day. So just a thank you to them. They did a great job. Some season highlights and individual highlights. I kind of like to point out that the successes of the year or of the season. We had teams and individuals qualified for states in all 11 sports this season. Probably one of the more successful winter seasons we've had in recent years. We had 3 South Shore League championship teams. Girls swimming and diving won the league for the 2nd year in a row. And Kira Dean set a school record and qualified for the sectional meet in 1 meter diving. Boys swimming and diving finished 2nd in the league championship meet, and lost by only 1 point. The indoor track and field team, boys indoor track and field team, won the league and finished the season undefeated. We had 2 students, Michael Knightlick and Lekan Satanwa, both qualified for the national championships, which were held in New York City in the 400 meter and the mile run. Girls indoor track and field won the league for the 5th season in a row and finished undefeated as well. Wrestling had an 8th grader who was on that waiver. Matt Patterson placed 3rd at the state tournament, becoming the first 8th grader in school history to place at states. And then Ayla Goldman placed 2nd at the girls all-state tournament. They actually had a girls-only tournament the past 2 years for wrestling, and she's now a 2-time state finalist. Unfortunately, she lost in the final match, and that's for every girl in the state. So huge accomplishment for Ayla Goldman, obviously in her own specific weight class. Gymnastics finished 3rd in their league and had another successful season. And because we were a co-op, they were able to host a meet at the YMCA this year. They were able to set up over there. So most of the meets are at Carver High School because they're the host. But we were able to hold one at the YMCA because they had so many middle school girls on the team this year. Cheerleading qualified for both sectionals and state competitions. Girls basketball qualified for the state tournament and lost in the preliminary round at Duxbury in a close game. Boys basketball qualified as well. Won their preliminary round game at home. First time since 2009 that we had hosted a state tournament game and won, and then lost at Mansfield in the round of 32. And then ice hockey qualified for the state tournament. Had an away game in the round of 32 at Milford Hopedale. They lost that game, but the highlight for that team was definitely that we had one of our unified student athletes, Shane Hathaway, join the team as a varsity ice hockey player. And he was able to go to practice every day, improve his skills, improve his skating, and just a huge show of sportsmanship by some of our opponents when he had the opportunity to get on the ice, actually score a goal in one of the games. And just a great experience, I think, for everyone involved with the ice hockey team in that situation this year. So congrats to Shane on that. And last but not least, our majorettes finished first place in their first competition, or their first 2 competitions in the open class, and they've got 3 competitions left this spring. So I wanted to make sure tonight that I had a little bit about everybody from the winter season. The Nichols Middle School basketball team is probably the only ones I'm forgetting here, and the girls had a very successful season. The boys struggled a little bit, but by all means, it was a good year for improvement, and they have a lot of kids coming back next year. So something that was new this year that I know the school committee is aware of was the MIAA Diversity, Equity, and Inclusion Pledge, an implicit bias course. MIAA is our governing state athletic association, so they govern all the rules, tournaments, and everything that we follow as a school district. They implemented an initiative to combat some of the recent incidents of racism and hate within school sports this past fall. The initiative was set by the Game Officials Committee and the Sportsmanship Committee at the MIAA. As a member school, we were tasked with reviewing a diversity, equity, and inclusion pledge with our students, coaches, and administrators prior to the start of the season. We also reviewed a required course called Implicit Bias from the National Federation of High Schools, which is the national governing association for high school sports. This information was shared with families at the preseason parent meetings and is now included in our athletics registration. Our expectation as an athletic department is that everyone involved in our program makes this commitment to inclusion and creating an environment free from hate. However, families do have the ability to opt out of this initiative, and no student would ever be denied participation for not complying. I'm proud to say that in the winter season, we had full compliance and no reported incidents of hate or unsportsmanlike behavior. Initially, we had 3 families reach out with clarifying questions, but ultimately they did participate in the program. I also want to point out that this was a new initiative that the MIAA is continually looking at this topic and striving to find the best way to educate our students on the importance of making a commitment to celebrating diversity, equity, and inclusion through athletics. So it's something that we're constantly going to be looking at to do, that the MIAA is going to be looking at to do, pass that on to their member schools. So moving right along, I have a couple more items. My report here, spring sports start Monday. We have a full slate of games. Majority of them will be on campus. We do still have a few teams off campus as we finish the final phase of the construction project. JV softball and tennis are both other 2 teams that unfortunately are still off campus until we get that last growing season and we get those tennis courts in. I do want to remind everyone that the facility is not open to the public if school is in session or we have practices and games going on. So there will be time on the weekends where that space will be open after the practices are complete, but we do want to limit the use while we have school going on and actual athletic events. The last piece I have for tonight before I can answer any questions that people might have is our Middleborough All Sports Boosters Association. I'd like to kind of give a little bit of update about that. In this winter season, we do a big fundraiser, or they do a big fundraiser every season. And in the winter, it's this year it was a calendar raffle. They raised over $13,000. We asked student athletes to sell calendars and then pick the cash winner every day of the month of January. They also took the lead on managing the indoor concession stand. We had volunteers from boys and girls basketball families, and were able to open the concession stand for every home basketball game. We also had student volunteers from the sophomore class work on the concession stand at home, or for some of the home basketball games. And these groups were able to raise additional funds for the Middleborough All Sport Boosters Association, which then helped supplement their end of the season banquets, awards nights, and any class initiatives that they had. So that the money raised then got passed off from MASBA to those groups. This spring, MASBA is bringing back the big raffle where they're selling raffle tickets and raffling off some major prizes like $750 gift certificate to Amazon, Hannaford's gift cards, Best Buy gift cards. So there's a number of really big prizes. Every student's going to be asked to sell raffle tickets. And then the raffle winners will be pulled at the MASBA Golf Tournament, which is always the first Sunday in May. This year it's May 1st. And this year the golf tournament is again at Squirrel Run. And it's going to be dedicated to our former physical education teacher and head baseball coach, Bill Lawrence. Unfortunately, it's a really popular event and all of the foursomes are full, but we're always looking for, sometimes people drop out, so there is a bit of a waiting list, so you can reach out to me if you're interested in playing, and we'll get you on that list. But then there's always opportunities for sponsorship, whether it's through a whole sponsor or a tournament sponsor, a business sponsor, things like that. So reach out to me if you have any interest in sponsorship or waitlist. I think that's all I have for the athletics update. I'll take any questions that anyone might have.
DEI and implicit bias training. So I think some of the concerns that some people had, which I shared, was that it was nobody was notified of it. It was just sort of brought into the winter sports update. So in my case in particular, it happened before the parent meeting. So my child went to that after school meeting and was told he would have to sign something. So I'd like to take the opportunity to ask that we maybe do a little more work as a local school committee and community, where anytime there's a pilot process or a training or anything that would come out, that we would have that opportunity to view it first, or to have a conversation about it, or perhaps a subcommittee could talk about it. But I think that for me, if we've learned anything in the last 2 years, being told what to do is not always appropriate. So basically what I would like to ask is, can we, as a community in Middleborough, discuss this a little further and come up with something that works for us here? I think that you, as an athletic director, have done a fantastic job of having administrators at every single game. Every game I've gone to, there's been someone there. Brand's always there. People are present. They're doing the right things. They're making sure that those students that are watching the games are acting appropriately. All those things are happening in Middleborough. So to be told, you have to sign, maybe you agree with part of it, but you don't agree with all of it, is a little concerning for me. So that's where I'm at. I think it's worth a conversation, and I don't know where that we go from there, but I'd like to ask that we do that.
So my response to that is just that this came from our governing athletic association, and that we had conversations with the superintendent and principal of the school building, and the mindset was that this was something that was positive by all accounts, and that was being done across the state. If it's something that needs to be further vetted, or we need to bring forward to school committee, by all means, we're absolutely open to doing that.
My concern was that there was an opportunity for a student to say no, basically, right? There's a little bit of an opt-out piece at the beginning.
When it came out, it was put out as a required piece from the state association, but there is an opt-out. And like I said from the beginning, there is an option to opt out, and we would never hold anyone out for not wanting to participate in it.
I think maybe we make it clear to folks up front, whether we do it in required athletic meetings to parents, that we say this is part of the process. If a student and a family feels like they don't want to do that, they don't have to do it, but this is what it's for. Because I just think that that's just that little piece that people get upset about, is that piece that if there is an opportunity for that child to opt out, or because that's my understanding,
Mm-hmm.
then people should understand that.
Right.
Yep.
And you said 3 people questioned, and once you had a conversation with them and explained what it was all about, that those people went ahead and they participated. So that's out of how many athletes?
336.
I mean, that's a pretty good percentage, I think, of people that were,
Mr. Chair, I don't dispute that. I will argue that not every parent is as involved, and sometimes people don't read things, and that's not anyone's fault. But sometimes their kids just go and they do this, and nothing is communicated between the parents. So I feel like we could be a little bit more transparent in that process, and that make sure that people, maybe even parents, have an opportunity to view it if they would like. I know that you have to like sign up for an email account or something. So it's kind of a process to do it. And again, it's just, to me, it just felt like MIA told you to do something and you did it. And I'm fine with that. I don't think you did anything wrong by any means, but it was sort of pushed in kind of quickly at that beginning of that winter sport. And everyone has to do this. And so no one really had a chance to look at it. Now we do. It's been a few months and we've had more of an opportunity, and I recognize that.
Is it all right if I brought the sportsmanship, the diversity, equity, inclusion pledge with me? Is it all right if I present what that actually is?
Sure.
Please. So what we asked the students what we reviewed with our students is this. There's 8 bullet points. One is we want to help create and foster a safe environment within the school, which includes the responsible use of social media. Consistently model respect and tolerance by setting an example of good sportsmanship and positive behavior, including language, body and spoken, gestures, signs, and overtures. Not enable my fellow student athletes who use abusive language, signs, gestures, or overtures. I will not cover up for them or lie for them if rules are broken. Hold myself, my fellow student athletes, and our community responsible and accountable for their actions. Seek information and assistance in dealing with my own or my fellow student athletes' negative behaviors, problems, or concerns. Be open and honest with my coach and other school personnel when the best interest of myself, my fellow student athletes, and my school are being jeopardized. Thrive to create a school without hate. Support the diversity, equity, and inclusion, sportsmanship, and game officials committees, policies, and programs within the Massachusetts Interscholastic Athletic Association. So that's the whole thing. The other piece is, like I said, the course training, and they're both opt-out. When you register, you can uncheck the box, or you can check the box if you agree with either of these two things. So like I said, the expectation and the hope is that everyone will check these, but it's not required. And the difference, because this was so new and it came out right at the beginning of November, we presented this the same way many or most of the other schools in our league did, which was to have our coaches do a presentation, work with the kids. I was involved myself. And this spring, we put it into the athletics registration so that parents had the choice to opt out of that. So that's what it is. And I know that I was able to share that with everyone here, and you guys were able to take a look at it. But I just figured I would go through it that way. If anyone's watching at home, they know exactly what we're talking about here. So.
You had a question. Oh, you're gonna have to come down here for stuff on the microphone, so that people can understand the question. Thank you.
Yeah. All right. So I just wanted to say that I had a similar experience to Teresa. So both of my children were given these 2 things before the presentation at the preseason night for parents. So both of my children came home telling me about what happened. And it was a very busy time. It was chaotic. It was literally the same day. Went to the meeting. You know, a lot of things were going on, and I couldn't give it enough attention. We had some conversation, but like Teresa said, not everybody's having these conversations with their children. So my children told me that this was a required element, that they had to do it. They weren't told it was optional. They were told it was required. At the meeting, I was told that during the meeting, it was said that this was required by MIAA for participation. And there was a lot of stuff going on at that time. I didn't look at it thoroughly and vet it all. Spring came up. I saw it again on the Family ID. When I registered my children, there was no option to opt out. So I want to make that clear, because it's being presented that it was an option to opt out. It is now an option to opt out. So when I saw that again, which is when all of you got my email, because now I'm looking at it a little bit closer and I'm examining what my children really saw. and I examined the implicit bias course, and I actually have some concerns about the implicit bias. Not that people don't have biases. I'm sure we all do, ones that we are explicit and implicit. I have concerns about how they presented this to our children, the content of it, and I think we need to have a conversation about it. It's a very complicated thing, implicit bias, and explaining it to children and not knowing what they're getting and being able to talk to them about it, I think needs to be a bigger conversation, not just what happened and then they come home and we don't really know what's gone on. I love the idea of a sportsmanship contract, and that being a good sport and how you be a good sport be presented to our children. I think that's great. I think we need to have conversations around diversity and around inclusion. And we are coming from a community that, because we are new to this school, we came from a community last year that experienced that with our athletes. We had an incident in hockey in which there was a racist slur against our athletes. I know that this is happening. I'm not aware. So you get into this position where you're like, I don't like this, what MIAA is saying. But I think that there's something good to come out of this. The second thing is, if we only present it in this family ID registration, nobody will look at it, because you literally go through, you click, 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 I agree, I agree, I agree. And so you've done nothing with this pledge because nobody looked at it. The kids don't look at it. My kids are supposed to click and write their name. I click, I click, I click. Nobody's looking at it. So I think that this is a really good element, but if we really are truly looking at teaching sportsmanship, teaching diversity, teaching inclusion, we can do a better job than what MIAA did, because I think we can change, some of those things are good, but I think we can teach children how to positively role model things. We can change the language in this, and not for nothing, but I'm just going to throw this out here. Chair Young, would you accept responsibility for something one of the other school committee members said, did, action, something they said on social media? Would you accept responsibility for their behavior? No. So why are we asking our children to accept responsibility for the behavior of their teammates? So I would like to rephrase things and rewrite things so it says that, maybe a child should speak up when they see a teammate behaving in such a way. I don't like that. Like, that right there is bothersome for me. If you're not going to take responsibility, which you shouldn't, for the actions of your fellow school committee members, we shouldn't be asking our children to do that either. So I think, honestly, I understand where MIA is coming from, but I think we can do a better job. So I think we can include this. And what Mr. Sylvia said to me in the email was that, sorry, I just lost my thought, was that if we had an incident in our community in which our athlete or our coach was the aggressor, we'll just call it that. If we have something showing that we are taking active steps to curtail this, then this is what it is. And I'm like, but that's kind of an empty thing if you're just putting it in there. And I get that if that's what MIAA wants to see, then we can do better. And I think that parents can be involved, students can be involved, this committee can be involved, the athletics department. I just think we can do better. And why not model to the rest of the state that we don't have to just take what the state tells us to do, but take it and say, all right, we understand the essence of this and let's do better, because I think we can do better. And I don't want my children to not participate in a sportsmanship contract that says that they are not going to act in certain ways. I want to instill that in them. I just want to teach it in a better way than what MIA is doing. Mm-hmm. So that's what I'm asking. I would like to maybe work, like maybe there's a subcommittee, create a better worded contract and really look at implicit bias and really is this appropriate? Is this understandable for these children? I think the bias course is biased. And it's like literally they are presenting a biased presentation. But does teaching them about implicit bias and telling them what their bias is because they belong to such and such a group. I mean, some of their examples are like teachers grade male math students better than female math students. I go, really? Do all teachers do that? I don't know. I really didn't feel like that was a really great example. So I really, really have an issue with teaching them bias in this way. And does that change the outcome? So if we do this, and they learn that they have a bias that they're not aware of, how does that change? Is it effective at all? I'm not sure it's effective in changing the outcome of sportsmanship, diversity, inclusion, and all of that teaching. I just think we can do better.
Thank you.
This might go to the chair, to Mr. Lynch. Is this something, like, it sounds like part of the criticism is that this is a kind of complicated issue that, is this something that we just heard from the new curriculum directors? Is this something that they would, if we're trying to develop a curriculum for what Ms. Kearns is saying?
Actually, I would say that this is probably within the athletic director's realm.
Okay.
He's quite capable of looking at this and moving forward, but it's the wish of the committee as far as I'm concerned.
I mean, I would rather have it come from Ryan in the form that he wants to, because it's not really the purview of the school committee to establish what, like a program or something. That's not what happens. It has to come from Ryan. Now, I think, and I think Ryan will admit that this could have been communicated differently. And like you said, the checkbox wasn't working when it first.
No, it wasn't there.
Right.
Didn't exist until I emailed
And
about it.
so, those type of pieces. But as far as how to proceed from here, I'd rather have the athletic department start the conversation with us.
So he has to initiate it with you?
Yeah.
I just want to clarify a couple things. The checkbox was always there. It was a required field. It was a default setting, and we hadn't had anybody that didn't accept it until Ms. Kearns reached out, which I appreciate because it was supposed to be an optional field, which is what it is. The other piece is, excuse me, there's no part of this pledge that says that you are responsible for somebody else's actions. It says hold myself, my fellow student athletes in our community responsible and accountable for their actions. Okay, so I'm going to hold them accountable. I'm not going to take responsibility for their actions. If somebody does something, I'm going to hold them accountable for it by reporting it to a coach. So
That's not how I read it.
So we will make sure it's, and the other piece here is when it's in the family ID registration, it really opens the door for parents to see what it is and then choose or not choose to have that conversation with their student. If they choose to talk about the pledge that's put out by our state athletic association, then that's their choice. If they choose to just check the box, then hopefully that's not the case, but they can do that. And then they also have the implicit bias as a separate piece. If they want to explore that with their child, they have the option to do that. If they don't want to do that, they don't have to do that.
So that was my question, could you separate it for people? So if I am faced with just signing that pledge, I'm fine with that. That's all great. But if I chose to not include the implicit bias training, then I'm not able to sign that. That was my concern.
I saw two fields. So when I originally signed up, I don't know what your end looked like, but when I signed the children up, it was just like every other field, like the concussion. Yes, I agree, set signature box. I had to cancel those registrations, go back in. There's now two fields, and it's had a red asterisk that said required. Now there are two boxes. One says, yes, I agree. One says, no, I do not agree. And I don't want to not agree with a sportsmanship pledge. I would like to have a sportsmanship pledge that I actually really value. And I do disagree with you. It says hold myself accountable for their actions. So it does say that you're asking children to hold themselves accountable for somebody else's actions. Hold myself accountable and responsible for their actions. So I think that the MIAA is just, I just think you can do a better job with a sportsmanship contract. And it includes all elements of the diversity, of the pieces that we need our kids to understand. So I think that we can have a better contract, and that if you feel the need I think that the implicit bias should be really looked at as whether this is a mechanism that's actually really useful. But again, embedding it where you want. Yeah, you can opt out, and that's great. So we can just choose to opt out of it, and probably nobody will ever look at it.
Ryan, the one piece I have is, do coaches have additional contracts with students? Having played sports, I can think of there were certain requirements that coaches would give outside of.
Coaches sometimes issue team expectations, a sign-off sheet. I don't think we have any currently, but there have been coaches in the past that have utilized like a team expectation contract. I know we used one when I was coaching.
Soccer.
Yeah, soccer. But those are more of like team expectations.
Right. And do you think you could separate the bias training with the sort of contract so it's a separate?
It is two separate.
Yeah.
Okay.
It is.
And like I said, I took responsibility for that. It was a default setting as a required field that when Ms. Kearns reached out to me, we made sure that we made it it was not supposed to be required.
And the other piece is you have to register to look at the training, correct?
The training, you click the link, you create an account, and then you take the course.
Okay. All right. So I would say it's on Ryan to come back to us and have a conversation about what he wants to do moving forward. It's not something that we don't set these things for the athletic department. We have the expectation that the athletic department runs, and where we have control over the athletic department is really around budgetary matters.
Okay. I understand what you're saying. I do think we can do a better job. So I think that Middleborough is doing a great job here, and I think collectively we could probably put our heads together and work on really, actually being proactive instead of just, having a paper that we've checked MIAA's box. And so we're compliant, but it's not very meaningful. So.
Please. Thank you.
Thank you. I do just want to say that it's been a few years, but the one parent night that I went to that you presented at, I do feel that many of the expectations in this pledge were set up by you for the student athletes to begin with. I think we hold our student athletes to very high standards. I don't think that many of these things are things that you are already incorporating into the athletics program. I would recommend that if there are concerns with the MIA content, that those be brought to MIAA. It doesn't help the overall process if we create our own without working with them and expressing the concerns to them that have been raised. I looked on their website. They have a very highly qualified board that's been part of the process of creating these trainings. If there are concerns about the implicit bias training, I feel that those should be brought to that group so that the process as a whole is looked at, not just our town. Because we all know that they could come out with the next stage in the next round of development, and it's better for us as a town if we're not constantly having to play catch up. And if these things are brought to them to start off with, that maybe they can make those revisions, and that as a town, we can be more comfortable with what they're doing. I heard a couple things in the comments in terms of we don't want our kids signing things that we're not aware of. I can understand that. But to me, that means bringing this more to the forefront and incorporating it, as you said you did, in some of the intro coach sessions. So if this is a standard, then when you have that first meeting with all the teams, present the content, discuss the content as a team, have that discussion like it's part of a curriculum for the athletics department. So I think it's a good start. I think as with everything, there are hurdles under implementing any new process. I think the process itself, while it could have improvements, I commend the MIAA for trying to do something, for seeing a need in our state and taking specific motions. And I commend you for implementing it as best as possible within the conditions that you were given. But I would just recommend that the first step be passing the concerns that you've heard from the parents to the MIAA and seeing their response rather than us rewriting something that should be coming from them potentially. Thank you.
Thanks.
Two things. One, and I think Ryan will agree with it. I think it's fine to bring your concerns forward because Ryan's going to have a lot more contact with the MIAA than a normal parent would. And so that's the piece. But I would also say to school committee members too, that as far as the MIAA goes, there is a school committee member who serves on the MIAA board. There's a school committee member who serves on each and every one of the MIAA sports boards. And so the way that's done is to be appointed through the Mass Association of School Committees. So there is opportunities. Every single, but probably by end of April, early May, we get in the packet the list of boards you can serve on, and that's one of the boards that people can serve on. So that's another way to process this as a member of school committee. I just raised those things as opportunities, that's all.
I appreciate the feedback from everybody. I know that we do have, one of the points I made right at the end of my presentation was that this is something that's being looked at and ongoing and a hot topic. It's new. We have a league athletic director within our league that sits on the sportsmanship committee, gives us the updates. They're going through this stuff at every one of their meetings and trying to put the best product out there that they can. And we'll roll it out the best way we can and make sure people are informed ahead of time going forward. Again, I think I stand by it that I think it's an important thing and it's an important piece to athletics and making sure kids understand, what their responsibility is as a student athlete. So,
Rich, go ahead.
So a sports question for you.
Yep.
I was wondering if you gave a really awesome summary of all the accomplishments and everything of our teams this year. And I wondered if there were any areas of stress or strain in terms of resources that you wanted to let us know about that might help inform next year's, well, actually, we already went through that, but might help inform some future budgets.
No, I think we're in a really good place, as a program from a financial standpoint. We get all the support we need, in my opinion, from the school district and the school committee, mainly our busing. That's a big piece, and we're able to provide buses for all of our student athletes to away contests. The user fees supplement the rest of what we need, and we're able to keep our user fees really low compared to other districts because we have the support of our booster club. So we're in a good place all around, I think. Do we have, wants and needs, and coaches have wish lists and things like that? Of course, but we have a brand new athletic facility. We have the, gyms in every building that we maintain and make sure if they need a new scoreboard or they need something fixed that it gets done, and we're in great shape. So.
Awesome.
Mr. Chair, if I could,
please.
And I know he's not going to admit some other things that are stressing him out. One is a couple of trees that fell down on the JV backstop, which destroyed that, which is about a $20,000 to $24,000 replacement. It's an insurance claim, but nonetheless, Mr. Hutchinson's working on that. The completion of the final field was supposed to be done as part of this project. It was supposed to be done a year ago. So now we're a year behind schedule. It hasn't been touched yet. They're coming in April to do that. And also the 5 brand new beautiful tennis courts that are to be built continue to be a sort of an underlayer for a partial parking lot behind the school that we plow occasionally for overrun and things like that. But it's not complete yet. So that facility up there, which is a beautiful facility, is probably about 85% complete when the high school is basically about 99, if you will. So I know there's some additional stressors that are going on in the athletic department. We're sending kids to Camp Avoda to play tennis. We appreciate Camp Avoda and their participation with us over the last 4 years.
This is the 4th year, so our seniors have never had a tennis court on campus.
Yeah, those seniors have never, and that was the first thing to go at the new high school was our set of tennis courts, and which was unfortunate. So just a couple additional stressors that are involved in that. Additional field needs to be built, which is that additional field into that 9-acre section that the town bought, which will be a lacrosse field practice lacrosse field, but
Lacrosse,
lacrosse will
soccer,
actually be
football.
playing in the all-purpose field for their games. Correct. So,
And I'll just add to that, Mr. Lynch. Thank you for bringing that up too, because Camp Avoda, they gave us, they're really supportive. I mean, we just clean the courts and set up the nets, and they
don't
give
charge
us
us a
a contract.
penny.
They don't charge us a penny.
yeah, so we do whatever we can for them, so.
And then the park department, we do have a contract with them for these contingency plans, which is what, the baseball field, for example, if it's not, it seems like it's going to be ready for practices, but maybe for games, we may have to go over, because the two teams play at the same time. We may have to use Nichols Middle School or the park department or something like that. So,
If there are no other questions for Mr. Sylvia?
Well, I just want to say one thing, Rich. I think it's important that when you asked if there's more people can do, in my mind, the thing that people can do is really support the boosters. Because time and time again, the way we've always worked it too is the boosters have sort of been seed money for starting things, especially additional sports here at the 8th grade or something new at the high school. They've always been there to give us additional funds. As you can imagine, as COVID came, some of their plans have sort of had to be pushed off or pushed to the side a little bit. But the time and time again, and whether or not you like raffles or you like some of the press, they're always at football games selling merchandise, everything like that. They're always around. And, if people can just reach out to them and help them, I think that's the best thing that anyone can do to help our programs.
Yep.
You had one more
Yeah,
question.
I did have one last one. I think the timing might not be great to ask this question, but I believe that the track became available for public
You
usage.
voted on it last time for March 15th.
Yep. So 15th, so only a couple days ago. So I was just curious, maybe this is maybe more of a Hutch question, but how is it going so far? Have we seen any public usage?
So far, we haven't seen any yet. I think it's because the word hasn't really got out much yet, but also it's important for people to know that once the spring season starts on Monday, we have scheduled practices until 7:00 at night, at which point it's only open till dusk. So that's going to get locked back up during the week, is my understanding, because there's no lights that are going to be turned on or anything like that. So it's really the weekends for the spring season, and then potentially longer, more time in the summer when the spring season's over, basically, beginning of June, mid-June. But for now, it'll be Saturdays and Sundays.
And the rules are posted in a couple of places, but they're very clear as to what you can and can't do. For example, no dogs unless service dogs. And then there's a lot of no's, unfortunately, but there's a lot of yeses too. It's a great opportunity for the community to get onto that track area and that turf area. So,
And the other thing too that I want to make clear is, the idea of people not being there when school's in session and stuff like that. It also comes from our safety team and comes from the chief of police. Those are issues that he raises to us and that we set up. And so that's why we make it sure that it's done that way.
Yeah, Mr. Chair, just to wrap up that, I think it's an incredible facility, and we spent an awful lot of money to provide kind of the best possible surfaces and all that for our students. So I totally agree with being careful with it. And the public does have access to it. So I think that's great, just within some, kind of common sense parameters. So it sounds good. Thank you.
thank you.
Thank you, Ryan.
Thank you, Ryan O. Sylvia. And our next guest is Mr. Sean O. Siciliano on this special St. Patrick's Day version of the school committee meeting. Happy St. Patrick's Day out there to everyone.
Hello.
Welcome, Sean.
Alrighty. So I just want to say thank you for the opportunity to present tonight. We're going to talk a little bit about technology, kind of where we started in 2020 when COVID really hit, all the things that we've done up until now, and then a little bit of future planning. Main topics, talking about our team and also the growth. When I say growth in our team, I'll talk a little bit more about that, but not adding staff, growing within and seeing what we can do inside of our team. What we accomplished since 2020, how we drive change and progress in Middleborough. We need procedures, some of the procedures that I'm planning on coming up with, and then also security within our IT structure. Our team, we have 8 people in the department, including myself, Earl, Curtis, Cindy, Mo, our tier 1 and system support technicians. We have Mark Smith, who's our tier 2 technician. Mike Mills is our network manager, Katie Goodine, our student information specialist, and then myself. We've really made an effort to tier our technicians, and that's mainly in levels of support. A tier 1 technician can handle everything for your computers, for your classroom, for your teacher needs, things like that. When you get into tier 2, which is what mainly Mark's dealing with, is more pushing down dealing with servers, pushing down updates to computers, dealing with grouping and things like that. Cindy deals with all of our accounts. Mike Mills is kind of the catch-all. He deals with all of our networks. He deals with all of our server upgrades, anything technology, the technical side of it, that's really Mike, and that really falls under him, and he's doing a great job, and I thank him for that. Katie Goodine, student information specialist. She's also our registrar. She is the Aspen guru. She deals with all of that, and also our student registration and our single sign-on solution, which I'll talk about in a few minutes. So what's new? During COVID-19, we distributed all the devices that we had for elementary and kindergarten students. We sent home all the middle school devices, which had never been home before. We supported all Middlebury Public Schools devices remotely while attempting to adapt services and support that was needed while they were not in the building. Provided remote support for teachers and virtual instruction. Supported teachers with digital learning and teaching teams. We had a great group of teachers that created videos, helped us with workshops in creating videos and instruction for teachers, how they could better work with their students. We implemented a one-to-one device for grades 1 through 5. That was the 2,000 Chromebooks that we purchased that allowed us to do 1 through 5 and then also replace our middle school devices, which needed to be done for MCAS testing. Increase the district web filtering to move to a hybrid cloud-based filter. We had a hardware-based filter inside the building. We kind of got caught a little bit with a hybrid. We're in the middle of a move when COVID hit. So we kind of had some quick thinking on the networking side and got the filter done. And then over the summer, we were able to take another step forward with that. Filtering is obviously huge for us. Under the SIPA rule, we're responsible for filtering anybody that's in our building or is on one of our devices. Implementing laptops for pre-K through 12. This was all done through COVID funding. All those teachers received new laptops. Nhs Building Project. I just put a couple bullets down here of things that we were able to do with this project. It was not only to get the high school up to date and to get a new high school, but also gave the district a lot of chances to get a lot of redundant systems and put them in the high school building project. We had a redundant firewall for failover. We previously only had one firewall at the complex. If we lost power, that firewall went down, and it does take time to get that firewall back. With the redundant firewall at the high school, now we have that secure access, and it's also on a generator. We doubled the network speed for the district. That was one of the things that when we were building the high school, we put a temporary internet service in to get everything going on the high school and get that system going. And with the approval of the superintendent and the business office, we were able to keep that second line active, which essentially doubles the data for the district, which is huge. We have a new data center, which was created to create redundant systems that was actually put in the old high school before we moved because we needed to get it done. So we were able to get that money ahead of time. We put it in the old high school, and then we made that transition with the HP technicians to get that switched over. We installed new flat panels, which started the tiered replacement system of the old BrightLinks projectors that are across the district that are all outdated. Those flat panels we've started purchasing through SR3. We actually purchased 20. We're going to put those in the Memorial Early Childhood Center for our pre-K and K students in their classrooms. And then we also have a couple more that are going to go in the complex. It's our plan over the next 5 years to hopefully be able to fund and replace most of those devices throughout the district. Everything now runs on a network, which means everything is now IT's problem. So the building management system, everything is controlled by a computer. So when Howie can't get into the building management system to control the temperature, that becomes an IT problem. So there's a lot of things that have kind of, as we move forward with technology, have become under IT. It obviously helps us run a lot more effectively. When Howie can change the heat in a classroom from his living room on a Saturday, it's definitely a lot easier than having to come to the building and do it. So there's definitely a lot of perks, but just adding to the kind of the the beefiness of what IT deals with every day. Implementation of Jamf. So Jamf is a management system which allows us to manage iPads and Macintosh computers, mainly is what we're using it for right now. We currently have a system that we use called MOS 360, which does all of our Windows devices, but Apple computers and iPads were always an issue. Jamf is a very cheap platform that we can use as a MDM, as a mobile management solution. And it allows us to control what's on every computer. It allows us to, for special education, when we're sending out iPads, it allows us to control those iPads. We can control what apps go on it. We can automatically set the apps for multiple iPads, kind of almost creating an image for iPads, which allows us to quickly produce iPads and also be able to monitor, and then also be able to take applications back when people move out of district. It also gives us the ability to kind of track where our iPads are. This is a lot of the registration stuff. We moved to an online registration platform through Aspen, through the SIS system. That was huge. It's created a lot of streamlined efforts for registration. Previously, we had paper registration. People would fill out a paper application. They would hand it to the secretary at the building. The secretary would then put all that information into the computer. I don't know if you've tried to read anyone's handwriting lately, but it's not very easy. So the data would get misconstrued. Phone numbers would be wrong. Email addresses would be wrong, things like that. And that was always data that we were chasing. This all being in Aspen allows us to do all of it right there. The parents are putting in their information, and it's a lot more accurate than if we were to do it on our own. It also frees up time for secretaries to not have to enter all that data. We moved to digital report cards and digital reporting systems, which was huge. It was kind of one of those things that was forced to us through COVID. We didn't really have the ability to hand out paper report cards, but it's one of the perks of COVID that I think is going to stick around. We were able to put it through Aspen. Katie can set a release time. Parents can log in through Aspen and see their students' reports. Class-like implementation, which is our single sign-on solution. Students are going to one web page to access all of their applications. So you no longer have to know your password to all 200 applications that you use on a weekly basis. They're going to one application. It's on the district website. They log in through their Google account, and then they click on whatever application they want to use. It works. It's magic, it says, and it logs you in. The single sign-on solution allows us to track application usage. It allows us to track time on learning in those applications. The other thing that it allows us to do is it gives you that one place where everyone knows that that's where they're going for what they need. And it also gives us the ability to create accounts quickly. I say quickly. It takes one night to create an account. It's pulling directly from Aspen. So what it does is when we enroll a new student at 2:00 in the afternoon, Aspen updates, ClassLink pulls that information and creates all the accounts that they need based on their schedule. So it's pulling their classroom teacher, it's putting them in the classes that they need, it's giving them the ST Math account, all that stuff. School due tickets. School due tickets are how we track our work and how teachers implement or put in problems that they're having throughout the district. So these are our school due tickets from July 1 till the present. We have about 1,826 tickets. You'll see different tickets. The trend is pretty accurate based on the number of students. The middle school, there are a lot more tickets. We mainly see that the middle school teachers are using school due more for student abuse and student breakage, whereas the high school is mainly all of those problems are directly teacher issues for the most part. At the high school, the students have the ability to go to the technician and get a problem resolved, so it doesn't go through the school due process, whereas at the middle school, they report it to their teacher puts in a school due, and then we address the issue. And you'll see a couple of the ongoing tickets or issues that we're working on now. Some of them are longer issues. They might be some of the BrightLinks projectors that we aren't replacing. We've put temporary projectors in there, but that's obviously an open ticket because we haven't completely resolved that issue yet. This is a quote I found when I was actually at a conference last week. The COVID-19 epidemic has showcased the value of IT and digital transformation in organizations should turn the crisis into an opportunity to accelerate the transition. We all kind of got on our horse when COVID happened. We needed to do it. We had to do it fast. And I think we did 95% of those things well. And I'm trying to keep the team on that board. Like, let's keep going. Like, let's keep doing new things. Let's keep trying things. Let's keep moving forward. I feel like sometimes we stall out and we kind of get stuck, and it's like, yep, what we're doing is working. There's always something better, especially in technology. There's always something new. There's always something to change. And there's always something to learn. And that's when I talked about growth within our staff. We have a very talented group of staff. And the group of staff that we have been with us for 3 years, most of them, and they've survived COVID with us, which is, I think, is the hardest time that they'll have. We have 2 young technicians that are very eager to learn. Mike Mills, our network manager, is currently getting licensed in Alcatel-Lucent, which is huge for us. That's all of our switches. All of our phones are all Alcatel-Lucent. Him being certified would allow us to kind of do some of that stuff in-house. And being able to support our technicians, to be able to support our staff to get the understanding of what they need every day, to be able to help us better understand and better provide for students. Time to move forward. Communications with administration, staff, teachers, students, families in our community. Coming from the communication side, I try and be as forward as I can with our teachers and our staff. We're going through this thing right now called Printer Nightmare. It's a worldwide problem. Microsoft made some changes. Drivers didn't change, and it's created a nightmare for our printers. I've been very forward with our teachers that we're working on it. We're doing the best we can. We have engineers working on it. We have our IT staff working on it. But just trying to keep that communication line open so that they know we are working on it. We understand it's a problem. We understand it's a hassle. We apologize for it, but we're working as hard as we can. But the problem with technology is that you fix one thing, you break 3 other things. And that's really what's happened. We think we made a lot of progress today at 2:00. We did an update. So we're hoping that will solve Printer Nightmare a little bit, but I'm sure something else will pop up tomorrow afternoon. So looking at the future, procedures, student device repair. One of the things that I've kind of started looking at, and one of the things that I've tasked Mike Mills with, is looking at how we can provide an open and transparent platform for our parents to be able to see where their student's device is in the repair process. Some students send their device in and they never hear. They get a replacement device, and if the screen breaks, then we replace that ourselves. That's usually a quicker repair. If it's a hard drive, if it's a keyboard malfunction, something like that, these devices are still under warranty. So we send it out to warranty, and that could take 2 to 3 months. So we're getting a replacement device to that student, but the goal is that student gets their device back. That's their device that we gave them at the beginning of the year, and we want them to have that device. There's many back-end reasons for why we want that, but being able to create an Aspen, and we started this process today, being able to create an Aspen under the technology tab, a tracking tool, so they can see when the device was turned into a technician, what the problem was, maybe an estimate of when the technician thinks it'll get back, where it is, if it's in warranty, if it's in being repaired, things like that. Internal procedures to create consistency across buildings. The student repair process is one of those, but also creating internal procedures inside of technology so that we know when something happens exactly what we do, what's the procedure, what's the protocol, and being able to go through that and create those. BYOD, evaluating BYOD and how we can improve this for students and evaluate how it affects us during MCAS testing. We have to carry a lot of computers, extra computers, with BYOD, because when we go to MCAS testing, we can't test on a BYOD device. So this is kind of the first year on how we're seeing that, and being able to evaluate if we can use the computer for multiple kids, or if we need to keep one computer per kid that has a BYOD device. We're very much in the evaluation stage of that. Creating replacement plans, going through and creating for our budget procedure exactly every year. If you buy a switch and the switch lasts 7 years, what does the switch cost? Divide that out through 7 and figure out throughout 7 years how much do I need every year in order to get exactly what I need to resolve my end of life equipment. There's kind of 2 stages with technology equipment. There's the end of support, and then there's the end of life. End of support means if I call Alcatel-Lucent, they're going to be like, "Ah, sorry, you're on your own." And then there's end of life, which means if you plug anything into it, it's not going to work. So we want to obviously be ahead of end of life, but we don't necessarily need to be ahead of the support. We do have that support within our building. We want to collaborate with teachers and see how we can better serve them. There's a lot of teachers out there that are very smart and have great ideas, and we want to really pull that in and see what we can do as a department to better serve our teachers. We are in customer service. We are representing our teachers, and it's our job to make sure that the teachers have the tools that they need every day to teach, and our students have the tools that they need to learn. So what can we do to make it easier for them? What can we do to make it better, and be able to balance that? Collaborate with the new curriculum department to see how technology better fits inside the curriculum and how we can better interweave those. When we had the IT audit, that was one of the big hits, was that there was no connection between curriculum and IT. And I think over the last year, we've done a little bit better, but really diving in, using that single sign-on solution to get that data and see really what we're doing. Putting together the pieces, creating reports, better tracking for hardware and software costs. These were all things that I've kind of learned over the last couple months of how we can better track our technology, how we can better track our funds, and how we can better improve the technology that we have in the district. We also need to create a replacement tool, replacement plan for the 2,000 Chromebooks that were purchased during COVID. As an IT department, we realized that we might not have $400,000 in 5 years to buy 2,000 more Chromebooks. According to MCAS, in 5 years, you're probably going to need new Chromebooks in order to test MCAS. So we need to create a plan, not for next year's budget cycle, but for the year after, so that we can make sure that we're ahead of the game with MCAS and we have the devices that can handle MCAS testing. Security, things are always changing. As you've seen in the news, scamming has become huge. Phishing emails have become huge. We're in a pretty good spot in Middleborough. The security is strong. We have a multi-layered security system. We're ahead of many other districts in the state. We're constantly making updates and patches to stay current. We use vendors and consultants to keep this active. We do have a very smart team, but we do not have the expertise that these consultants and other companies do. It's what they do for a living. It's what they do every day. So we use those and we rely on those vendors and consultants. Ongoing phishing and spam training. You guys all have Middleborough Public Schools emails. I think you guys all got the training. We're going to roll that out throughout PD days for all of our district. It's the ability to go through and understand what is phishing, what is spam, and really what are the repercussions of clicking on something like that. We all see that there's an email that's looking for us to put in our phone number or something like that. But when you're on a school district computer, it's really more than that. You could click on the wrong thing and it could let somebody into our system that we don't want in our system. We might not know that they're in our system today. We might not know that they're in our system tomorrow. They can hang there, and in 2 months from now, they take everything. So really creating that importance and creating that understanding that things that you do while you're on our network directly affect you, directly affect your students, directly affect our community, and could really be a hassle in the future. Mobile app and social, we're moving to S'more. We switched to S'more, which was currently used by our administrators. We switched to a district-wide account. Anybody can create a S'more account with your Middleborough K-12 email. S'more allows for ADA compliance. It allows for language translation, and it's really the forefront of where we're planning on moving our technology in our communication. We're presenting tomorrow, Carolyn Lyons and I, about S'more and presenting it to some of our staff. But it's definitely one of the things we really want to take advantage of in the next year. Increasing social media presence is always going to be on my list, no matter how much I post. We never post enough. Creating communication plans to share with administration to create a unified message among the district. We all want to we're one district. We want to remain that way, and creating that message so that we can come out to the community and say that this is what we are, this is our message, and being able to create that across platforms. That's all I have. If any questions?
I have a couple around school food. The first one around school food, you have a number of how many since July, it was 1,800 deaths. Does that include, for example, in the printing situation that you're running through right now, 20 teachers put into school do essentially the same problem? And so while the number seems high, it could be multiple of the same problem. Correct?
Absolutely. So there is, we do, it kind of gets to a stopping point. So when we see an issue, let's say when the printing issue first became a thing, it occurred via Windows updates. That's what started the whole problem. So on Monday, we had a couple teachers that were like, I can't print. And we're like, that's weird. And then on Tuesday, everyone went home, turned their computer off, got back to school, turned their computer back on. Everyone got the Windows update. And now all of a sudden, everyone was on the same problem as these two teachers were on Monday. So they do come in, you'll start to get 5, 6, 7, 8, 10. Once that happens, I try and get ahead of it and be like, hey, everybody, just so you know, there's a major printing issue. I know it's hard to believe, but that message does make it around quickly that there's a printer issue. And the teacher in 3rd grade will be like, I already put a school dude in for it. And then the other teachers will be like, oh, okay, I don't need to do it. So there is some of that duplicate tickets, but a lot of these some of them are simple issues. I don't have sound on my Bright Links. Some of the teachers, the cord wasn't plugged in, or the HDMI setting wasn't right on their audio hardware. So there's little things that are sometimes quick solutions, but then there are some things in there. When you look at some of the ones that are ongoing, a lot of those are longer issues that we're currently working on. So.
And the school is there a way to analyze how quickly your staff is solving problems? Or again, like you said, there are going to be some that stay longer, right? But realizing what those problems are, so maybe you have to look and invest some more money into those issues.
Yes. So I opened up the school dude analytics the other day, and I was sitting with Mike, and I was like, oh, Mike, there's a thing to see how long tickets are open. And he goes, be careful with that. And I looked at it, and some of the things were like 197 days, 422 days. But then you look at the tickets, and they were closed. They were done, but nobody ever closed them. So that's when we kind of reevaluated and oh, there's something from 4 years ago that's open, but it's the way School Dude aligns them is it's hard to see those things that have been open so long ago. Which when you only have 23 open, it kind of allows us to stack that, but there is a way to do that. And I think we need to kind of be able to manipulate the data a little bit better so we can weed out some of those. And it's also looking at the data from this year.
Right. And I think that's more important than anything else, right? And I guess the other question I have for you is, given the changes and given the turbulence, if you will, and everything that goes on, especially the ideas of security and stuff like that, how do you stay aware, and how do you make sure that you're getting what you need to stay on top of things?
Yeah, absolutely. So it's always an ongoing roller coaster especially with security. I went to a conference on Friday, and I went to 2 workshops just on security. There's different certifications you can get, and as I move forward in my professional journey, I hope to kind of get some of those certifications to be able to take some of that learning. We do rely heavily on our consultants, like I said, and being able to kind of put us in the forefront and be able to put us ahead. But there's different email chains that go through the state, just like any other department has. That state email list is huge, of knowing what's going on, knowing what's coming up. There's different bulletins that we get from the state that say, hey, this is out there, just so you know. You may have gotten it, you may not have. And really staying ahead of it with the state, being able to do that phishing campaign is really huge for us. It sends me a report. They actually send, I shouldn't tell people this, they send test emails out to the district, fake phishing emails. And if a staff member clicks on that email, it will send me a report of who clicked on that email. It then sends them an email that says, hey, by the way, we sent you a phishing email and you bit. Here's an extra training for you to do to better understand why you shouldn't have clicked on that thing. And the emails, we recently received a test email, and the emails came to me and said, I clicked it by accident. I had my trackpad and I clicked it by accident. I didn't mean to click it. I never click on these things. And I'm sure some of those are true, but there's also, we just need to be more vigilant, because all it takes is one fat finger and you're in a virus. That was one of the quotes, was I fat fingered the email. I was like, okay, but you clicked, and that was the key. But I mean, it's one of those things that we're always battling. No matter how much we try and be proactive against it, there's always going to be there. I say it in my spam emails all the time. We think we're smart, but hackers are a lot smarter. And it's their one goal, and it's to make our lives miserable. And we are trying to make it harder and harder for them every day.
Thanks, Sean. Rich, you have a question? Go ahead.
Sure. I mean, I love all of this. The plan you have for the future, all the improvements. It sounds awesome. I think you answered this question for me already, or at least you did outline that you had a kind of a future plan of tackling this issue of replacing the Chromebooks. And I just wondered, based on what you've seen so far for kind of like, damage, repair on the 2000 Chromebooks, or I guess we could just say all the Chromebooks, what is the lifespan on one of those? And is it 2 years? It's okay.
Yeah, we're definitely in the 5-year span.
Okay.
We are, like I said, we have our tier 1 technicians are able to repair screens. I'm buying direct hardware. I'm not sending everything away for replacement. We crack I think we're at about 80 at just the middle school in crack screens, but those are, I'm not going to say easy, but they're one of the easier things to deal with. We deal with them in-house. I buy bare screens. The technicians take the frames off, replace the screens, and we're able to get that back to them. So the screens aren't as big of an issue. It's the keyboards, kids that pop the keys off. Those are things now you have to replace the whole keyboard because they always break the little plastic pieces inside of it. So there are little things like that, but you're definitely looking at 5 years. We bought the Lenovo 100E is the machine that we went with. It's been in circulation for a while, and there's a reason. It's a good machine. It's served our students well. Our technicians like it. The Lenovo computer is a hefty device. It's almost like an aluminum frame or a metal casing. It's not that cheap plastic that we had the Acer computers that were kind of that cheaper plastic, and they would crack and break. The Lenovo computers are definitely pretty robust, and we should have no problem getting 5 years out of them. The problem with Chromebooks is that with a Windows device, you're limited based on the computer starts to slow down. With a Chromebook, you're limited to the operating system's no longer supported. So you only have between 5, 6, 7 years in an operating system on a Chromebook before they say we're no longer supporting that Chromebook. And it goes from the date you buy the device, or not the date you buy the device, the day you activate the license for that device. So that's kind of the limit with MCAS, and just making sure that we're staying ahead of it.
And Mr. Chair, I just had a follow-up.
Go right ahead.
Oh, okay.
Okay, thank you. I just wanted to say, as a parent, I love the online registration piece of it. So thank you for switching over to that, even though I didn't attach my documents, but that's fine.
Put them in the Dropbox. It's fine.
That's fine. And then the other piece, as a teacher, the single sign-on thing is like the best thing ever invented in the history of technology for me, because I don't have to remember all 50 of my kids' passwords, because every single one has a different password and username. So thank you for doing that. I'm sure the teachers appreciate that.
They do.
And this might be more of a question for Brian. Is there any kind of PD plan to help teachers with technology so we can cut down on some of those tickets?
John can probably answer this too, but we have a lot of PD associated with computers and with technology. When things come up, he mentioned technology tomorrow afternoon. They're doing a presentation on SMORE. That's something we're asking teachers to do more of, SMORE of. And
that's good.
Thanks. I'm here all week. But that's the whole idea, is as these things come in, we try to educate our staff. We need to educate our staff. We're educating them. Part of professional development for the future will be on security, and those security emails that you've received will become real when that testing really occurs. There's a lot of that stuff that's sort of developing and developmental in terms of things that we buy, but basic technology, there are some also things that Sean can do and has done. The tech department has put together videos, self-help videos and things like that.
Absolutely. Yeah. So we have the videos that we did over COVID, which some of them are outdated, but a lot of them are still perfectly suitable. We try and release documentation every time we release something. We release documentation based on what we think is suitable And then sometimes the teacher comes back and they're like, that didn't help me at all. I'm trying to do this. It's like, all right, well, we can document that too. But being able to kind of stay adaptive and stay ahead of it and be able to get as much information out ahead of it as we can. And a lot of it is teachers helping each other. We have a lot of teachers that are very good with technology in this district. If you go to every school, they'll give you 5, 6, 7 champion teachers that are champions in technology. And when they have a question before they put in a school dude, they go and ask that teacher, hey, I'm having trouble with this. Is this something you can fix? If it's something they can fix, they fix it. If it's not, they put in a school dude and we get a technician down there to help them. But really relying and leaning on our champion teachers and technology to be able to assist these teachers. And technology is always there to help, but sometimes it's not as easy to find a technician as it is to find that teacher that's down the hall. But definitely in the future, moving forward with PD and things like that.
I would also just quickly add that when I graduated from college, on my resume, it had nothing to do with technology. There was no reference to technology because there really wasn't any technology. Now teachers are coming out, the young teachers that we're hiring have a piece on their vitae, on their curriculum vitae, that basically says all the languages, all the computer languages they're versed in, how they excel, Microsoft, everything they can do, and what they're versed in, and that's sort of part of their education. So when they come out, they're ready to roll, which is great. And so that the last maybe 10 or 12 years, what I've seen has been really great. And we're trying to get that group that's been around a little bit longer, maybe that's more hesitant to adopt and to work is work with our other teachers and sort of put them together and mentor and work. And it's not that they haven't been receptive. It's work because they realize it's necessary for the day-to-day ops.
And we have, I talked to a teacher today. We were talking about the flat panel PC TVs going in the classrooms. And she was saying that she's a newer teacher within the last 5 to 7 years. And she was saying that in their college, they had 2 of these flat panels and they did instruction on them as part of their schooling. And I think as you go and as we see newer teachers come in, that's going to go higher and higher and higher. It's going to become a standard that you're using a flat panel. It's going to become a standard that you're using interactive technology, that you're using computer-based learning, things like that. So, but also not forgetting about the teachers that maybe didn't have that instruction and keeping them on their toes and keeping them in the loop and keeping them involved with the technology is definitely important.
Thank you. Thank you.
Yep. So the S'mores app you said was available to families. Does that include students as well, not just parents?
The S'mores app. So the S'mores, there's two sides of S'more. So
Okay.
there's the builder side of S'more, which is what students don't have access to it. It's
Right.
just for teachers and staff. The visual side of S'more is it pretty much in layman's terms, it makes a website.
Okay.
It creates a digital newsletter that anybody can go to. They click on the URL and it brings them to the newsletter. It allows them to make the text bigger, make it contrast, translate it, anything like that. But the building side of S'more is just for teachers.
Okay.
And you can embed it in emails and things like that. And you'll see the Brannigan Bulletin and the HBV newsletters and MPG.
But the website itself, so my apologies.
Yep.
The website itself is available to families, parents, students, everyone. The
Website, yes. The things that are on the website are available.
Things that are on the website, yes.
Yep.
Okay, thank you.
One more question for you, just about the that whole kind of like cliff that's coming in 5 years with the MCAS saying that we probably need to get new. How do we do that? Do we like slowly integrate new, or is that?
Yeah, absolutely. So we've, it's when I say we're looking at it, we've looked at it.
Okay.
We haven't ironed out. This is what we're doing yet.
Sure.
Sarah, this will be a surprise to Sarah, but we have a plan, Sarah. That's good. So Mike and I kind of kicked around some ideas. You would start at maybe replacing the 5th grade first, and then you're replacing 5th grade, 4th grade, and 3rd grade, and then not next year, but the 3 years after that. Those are your 3 years of students taking MCAS. So you're getting them the devices first. You're getting them the better devices in the span that they need them. Then the 2 years after that, you would do the second grade, and then the year after that, you would do 1st grade. And then once you do 1st grade, it's time to replace the 5th grade devices again.
Gotcha.
We're doing that currently at the high school. We're replacing devices every 4 years. Freshmen always get a brand new device. I say that 2 years ago they didn't because COVID slowed everything down. But the replacement, creating a plan so that all of our students always have the technology that they need to do state testing, to do day-to-day computer things, to do lessons on the computer, and also looking at replacement for our teachers too. We can't forget we bought 400 laptops for our staff. I don't know if the number was 400, but we need to look at that because we can't necessarily justify all that at one time either. So looking at how we're going to replace that and creating a plan so that it's not every year in September we're like, oh, those computers aren't going to work for MCAS in February and March. What are we going to do? Being ahead of it and having a plan is definitely needs to happen.
Sounds great. Thank you.
Thanks, Sean. So first question is, with the implementation of SMORE, will that assist teachers using more of a consistent communication platform to parents? One of the things I've noticed is I love all the teachers that try to communicate, but it's like, well, which teacher is using Remind and which is using this? And it can just get a little confusing for parents sometimes as to where am I going? So fantastic.
So just to address that question, the plan is that over the next year, we will create a uniform platform for teachers to communicate home with families. We realize that there's different families out there that all need different access. They all need different availability, and the way to reach families is all different. The Tuesday folder, sending that home with the 10 pieces of paper in it that have the 10 things that are coming up for the next 3 weeks isn't necessarily always the answer for all of our families. So being able to create one platform so that whether you're in pre-K, kindergarten, or high school, you're getting your information the same way. We always looked at electronically delivering newsletters and things like that as this, it was almost like a burden. And it's hard. How do we do it? SMORE is that solution. It makes it super easy. From all the accounts that I've heard, principals love it. It's easy to use. It's great for the user. There's multiple ways to share it out. You can share out a URL link. You can share out a PDF, however you want to do it. So SMORE is one of those things that Carolyn and I are presenting on it tomorrow, and we're kind of pushing the district and easing them into this, that this is going to become the solution. So.
I have another question. So my second question is in terms of the additional certifications and things that your staff are doing to stay on top of everything. I'm just curious in terms of, do those have a cost? And is there kind of like a tuition reimbursement kind of process that the staff can get if they get certified in something specifically to assist with their job?
So we have a budget inside of the IT budget that I can help staff with that certification and things like that. And we could definitely work with Sarah and the business department to figure out what that educational reimbursement looks like. Our staff is all in, and they're excited to be here, and they love coming to work every day, and they do anything for us. And it's really important to me to keep them here. You don't realize how much your technicians know until you have to train a new one. Creating the relationship with teachers, creating the relationship with students is so important to us. Inside of the department, it's our job to serve teachers, students, administration, and families. And it's our goal that our employees will be able to create that relationship with them. I know that there's a lot of technicians that email back and forth with parents about different things, and being able to get our employees that education so that they can become Lenovo certified or become Microsoft certified or certified in different servers and things like that is huge. And I'm sure with Sarah's help, we'd be able to find some funds.
I just think it fosters the environment of learning, but I think it also just goes so far to retaining staff to say, hey, we want to help you stay on top of all the things, and that as a school district, we commit to getting them the training and not having it necessarily have to be out of pocket. Or, I know lots of places have you have to pass and you have to, to get all the reimbursement or whatever it is, but I would fully back a specific process for keeping your staff moving forward with anything that can help the school out.
I would say from my perspective, any type of training for any individual in the system that brings value back to the district is something that we should support. And I think also, conversely, if there's a technician that has a particular need that needs to be addressed through an evaluation that says, you need to get better at this, and here's a professional opportunity that we'll pay for so that you can get better at this, because as Sean said, they're all valuable folks. So if there are no further questions for Sean, we can move on. He's going to hang around here in his role of Director, Coordinator of Technology to set up the next video. I want to take a 30-second commercial to say Sean was appointed the beginning of July, and I just want to say I think this belief is almost universally held in the district that he's doing a heck of a job. So, and we certainly appreciate everything he does.
Thank you. Thank you.
So next up on my report is Reads Collaborative. Now, the Reads Collaborative, as you know, is an educational collaborative based here in Middleborough. And basically, pretty much their offices are here and their schools are here, most of them. And Teresa Craig is the executive director of the Reads Collaborative, and most of us may know her from her role in our district as assistant superintendent. Prior to that, she was a teacher in the district, including preschool, et cetera. The Reads Collaborative is amongst 18 school districts, sending school districts, and 18 superintendents are on the board of directors. Excuse me, and also the special ed directors in each school district are on an advisory board, and they meet on a regular basis. Part of what the Reads Collaborative does is provide a capital plan, which is basically a vision for the future and the money they may need. And when they have to amend that, they have to go back to school districts per Massachusetts Code of Massachusetts Regulations 603 and ask member districts if they support the capital plan as amended. So, excuse me, that's what this is all about tonight. We have a video that was prepared by Teresa and the Reads Collaborative to explain this to you, and does require a vote. I would tell you that I would have a favorable recommendation for this vote. I was part of the board that unanimously approved this, but this is something that the school committee has to approve. So if you don't mind, Sean. Excuse me.
Hello, I'm Dr. Teresa Craig, Executive Director of Reads Collaborative. I have been the Executive Director for the past 11 years, and this is...
Hi, I'm Lindsay Albanese. I'm the Business Manager for Reads Collaborative, and I've been there about 3 years.
I want to thank you, the school committee chair, the members of the school committee, the superintendent, and the community for the opportunity to present this information via video. As we come to you with this request regarding our capital plan, I would like to provide a brief overview of Reads programs, services, and locations. Reads Collaborative was established in 1974. Your district is one of 18 member districts that form Reads Collaborative. As a member district, your superintendent is annually appointed as a member of the Reads Board of Directors. The Board of Directors meets 6 times per year or more. Various subcommittees meet throughout the year. The special education administrators from member districts meet 3 to 4 times per year as an advisory group and engage in work as specific program subcommittees. Reads is one of 25 collaboratives across the state of Massachusetts. Reads provides many services to our 18 member districts and provides services to an additional 45 districts in southeastern Mass and beyond. Reads programs include Reads Academy, which serves students with disabilities that impact their social emotional wellness. Reads Deaf and Hard of Hearing program, which serves students ages 3 to 22 who are deaf or hard of hearing. We also provide teachers of the deaf, educational audiology, and speech and language consultative services to students within their districts. The Deaf and Hard of Hearing program contracts with early intervention for specialized services for infants and toddlers with reduced hearing up to age 3. Reads Clinic provides comprehensive diagnostic and evaluation services, including psychoeds, neuropsychs, risks, and personality assessments by our clinical psychologists, CAPS and educational audiology evaluations by our audiologist, speech and language evaluations, and other assessments by our licensed professionals. Reads District Services provides a variety of specialized personnel within districts, such as speech language pathologists, OTs, PTs, APEs, school psychologists, school counselors, all for short and long-term solutions,
and also our newest Family Success Partnership counselors. Reads provides professional development such as mentoring, educator evaluation for administrators, mental health and trauma, and other specific topics on request. We have 8 classroom locations in Norton, 1 classroom at Bristol Plymouth Regional Vocational Technical High School, 1 classroom at West Bridgewater Middle Senior High School, and the 2 academy schools located in Middlebury, which we will refer to in this presentation. As you can see, we are very proud of the services we provide to the students, families, and staff of our member districts. Reads Collaborative is seeking to formally establish the reason and limit for the Reads Capital Reserve Fund through approval of member school committees. Reads Collaborative is requesting that each member school committee vote to approve, first, the reasons for the capital reserve, and second, the limit on the balance. The reasons for the reserve, as approved by the Reads Board of Directors, are maintenance and improvement of Reads properties and leased properties, to provide funding for payment of the lease for Reads Academy Public Day School location during periods of time when enrollment is below expectations, and to prepare to purchase the location of the Academy Public Day School to eliminate the expense of a lease beyond 10 years. The limit on the balance, as approved by the Reads Board of Directors, is $4 million for the reasons identified above. Please refer to the Capital Fund Reserve regulations, which are included in your handouts on page 1. I'm going to turn it over to Lindsay.
Reads Collaborative currently has 2 capital fund accounts. The Capital Maintenance Fund was established by the board on January 24th, 2013. The intent of the fund is to provide small annual funding to be used for larger capital maintenance projects to maintain our current facilities. The second is the Capital Building Project Fund. This fund was established by the board on June 7th, 2018. The intent of the fund is to provide for a new or renovated facility for the Reads Academy program, K through 6 and 7 through 12. A feasibility study indicated that the existing facility would be costly to renovate and expand as needed. After discussions with various financial institutions, the financing for construction of a new building on site was not feasible. I would like to note that collaboratives in the state of Massachusetts are not entitled to building project funds through the Massachusetts School Building Authority. The current combined balance held in these 2 funds is approximately $1,180,000. The 2 Reads Academy schools, pre-K through grade 6 and 7 through 12, opened for students in a newly renovated location on September 7th, 2021. This relocation provided an opportunity to expand available placements to include a DESE-approved preschool classroom, which is already enrolled with students. The new schools have a shared wellness center/gym, a cafeteria and kitchen, designated classrooms for art, music, vocational programming, and makerspace/libraries. There are outdoor spaces for field sports and basketball. There is playground equipment that is appropriate for elementary students. This space is welcoming and an equitable learning environment for students with disabilities who are referred for placement at Reads Academy. In planning specifically for the next 5 years, Reads Collaborative Board of Directors has approved a 5-year capital improvement plan that encompasses both the existing capital maintenance fund and the capital building project fund. The 5-year capital improvement plan on page 1 of your handout prioritizes improvements to existing facilities while also allocating funds to provide financial support to purchase or continue to lease 44 Bedford Street for students in Reads Academy. The details of this plan over the next 5 years do not require school committee approval, but are provided on page 2 of your handout to support the reason for the Capital Reserve Fund and the limit on the balance.
This approval requires action by you as the school committee members of Reads Collaborative and a signature of the school committee chair. Reads Collaborative is seeking to formally establish the reason and limit for Reads Capital Reserve Fund through approval of our member school committees. Just as a reminder, Reads Collaborative is requesting that each member school committee vote to approve first the reasons for the capital reserve and second the limit on the balance. The reasons for the reserve, as approved by the Reads Board of Directors, are maintenance and improvement of Reads properties and leased properties, provide for funding for payment of the lease for Reads Academy Public Day School location during periods of time when enrollment is below expectations, and to prepare to purchase the location of the Academy Public School to eliminate the expense of a lease beyond 10 years. The limit on the balance as approved by the Reed's Board of Directors is $4 million for the reasons above. The 18-member districts of Reed's Collaborative have provided consistent support and vision over the past 47 years. School committee members and superintendents have sought to ensure specialized intervention for the students with disabilities who require services provided by the highly qualified staff at Reed's Academy, Reed's Deaf and Hard of Hearing Program, Reed's Clinic, Reed's District Services, and within the many specialized services provided to school districts. Thank you for taking this additional step to secure an equitable learning space for the students attending Reed's Collaborative now and in the future. Thank you.
Certainly that the school committee approved this.
So as I understand it, there need to be two motions. The first motion is to approve the reasons for the capital reserve.
So moved.
Do I hear a second?
Second.
Discussion. Rich.
Is this kind of like, since we're a collaborative, so we're part of this and we're like part of the decision-making process, is this kind of almost what we did with the revolving account that we asked town meeting for, where they want a place where they can accumulate money so that they can eventually buy their building? I saw.
That's yes, Mr. Oakley, that's exactly what this is. This is a fund that, if you heard the frustration, you couldn't hear the frustration maybe, but we tried to work with the MSBA to try to get some money and build a facility at the Grove Street site, and ran into brick wall after brick wall. These students are public school students. These students are our students in a lot of instances, and we've felt a little frustrated with that. Given that, our next step was to look for a property and hopefully find a partner who would rebuild it as a school and then lease it back to us, with the hope at some point to actually buy that facility and go from a leasing situation to perhaps a lease to own situation. The Rebuildex company bought that piece of land that used to be, I believe it was Travelers Insurance at the Rotary. That's completely rebuilt. You saw some of the pictures. And we're now leasing it. And I think they want to enter into, I know, own down the road. So that's in sum, that's what this is. It's just the ability to accumulate additional funds in this capital reserve account so they could do some things. Part of it is looking at that academy they have now on Grove Street, the building on the right, they feel they don't have a use for. So if you look at that 5-year plan on page 2, the school committee, part of that is to divide that lot and to sell that building and that whole section of land, and that money would go into this account for future use. So just an example.
Sounds great.
Yep.
Yeah.
So the bigger difference though would be the reserve fund that we have, the school committee has authority over. This reserve fund, the board of directors has authority over. So I just want to make that piece clear. Any other, go ahead, Rich.
I think I understand this already. So we're just giving them the authority to make the thing. Then the money that they put into it, they decide where that money comes from. We're not being asked for any sort of investment of
Where
money.
it comes from and where it goes.
Okay.
Yes.
Sounds good. Thank you.
Yep. In accordance with the plan that's outlined.
Got it.
The 5-year plan.
Other questions? So the motion on the table is to approve the reasons for the capital reserve fund. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? It's unanimous. Next, Chair will entertain a motion to approve the capital reserve fund limit of $4 million.
Second.
Discussion. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? It's unanimous, and the chair will sign.
Thank you very much. And moving on now to Sarah Hickey with a summary of an article for a special town meeting, which is coming up in the very near future.
Thank you very much, Superintendent Lynch and school committee members. I apologize, I was unable to attend the agenda setting meeting, and that should say articles plural. So I have submitted to the town manager that the town manager requests articles months in advance so that he can accumulate everything. We actually have 2 articles. One is for unpaid bills from a previous year. So I'm finishing up my 4th year here in Middleborough. One of the things that we know is we can only spend FY22 money on FY22 expenses. One of the strange things that I think has happened because of the pandemic, and it's not a Middleborough thing, it's everybody else out there, is we're getting bills. In November, we got a bill from February of 2021. We can't pay that with our FY22 money. And so these bills, 10 in all, totaling $5,643.91, have to be approved by town meeting, and then once they're approved by town meeting, we can pay them. So that's the first article. The second article is the one that you see that was in the Dropbox, which is a reclassification of monies. We have a shortage of bus drivers. We are required by law to transport our special ed students to their schools. And so we're having to hire private vendors in order to do that. And the cost for the private vendors exceeds what we had budgeted in that line. So this second article that I'm talking about really is just moving money from the operating budget into the transportation budget, which are accounts that are held by the town.
But neither of these articles are incur an additional cost.
Correct.
All money is encumbered for both of these. It's just a matter of sort of semantics, if you will, or syntactics.
Do you want to vote?
I'm sorry?
Do you want to vote to approve? I mean, they've already had town meeting, so I don't think we have to.
They've already been submitted
That's
to.
So this
This
is
was
more-
information.
Yeah, exactly. I
This was
just want to make sure.
informational. There's not a
Yep.
vote required.
Thank you. Any questions for Sarah about these two? These are, to be honest with you, these are articles that we put in pretty much every year. The new bills that come in late, are sometimes lower, sometimes higher, depends on what happens and depends on what you got.
Before now, I've only had one, and
Right.
that's in the 4 years that I've been here. And so to have 10 come in, drabbling between July and February was unusual. Things would show up and would laugh and say, oh, this is from a year and a half ago,
People working at home.
Exactly.
or for whatever reasons.
Any further questions? Thank you, Sarah.
You're welcome.
You're all set.
I'm all set. Thank you very much. I do want to congratulate and thank Greg Stevens for all your work on the committee. It's been a pleasure getting to know you. I did not know you before you joined the school committee, but it's been a pleasure getting to know you. You've always had the kids' mind, kids at heart, and everything you've done. And occasionally you've disagreed, but we've always moved forward. So thank you, Greg. And Rich, potentially, good luck in the election. If you're not here, then we're going to miss you too, and have enjoyed working with you. And if you win, we'll see you next meeting.
Sounds good.
Thank you very much, Rich.
So next item on our agenda is just informational purposes. Just reminding everyone the dates of town election are April 2nd and special town meeting is April 25th.
Just to remind everyone, the new precincts, April 2nd.
Everyone should have received a survey from the town clerk. It'll say your precinct, and I believe it says where you're located too, right?
Correct.
Correct.
If someone did not receive that, or if they're just wondering, or they lost that paper, where do I vote mass, or where do I vote ma.com is where you would go to look for your new precinct. So that's just informational.
You had something?
Yeah, I got an email inviting me to a town debate, and I wondered if this would be a good time to just announce the details of that. And I know that Ms. Shartoff is organizing that. Did you want to, just for the folks at home, is that okay?
Go ahead.
Yeah.
So a week from tonight, we intentionally look to schedule around the school committee meetings. Week from tonight, March 24th, 7 p.m. at the Elks Lodge. All the candidates from the town have been invited to come to introduce themselves. If they can't come in person, they have been invited to submit a 3-minute intro video so that everybody gets a chance. Those who are in person, after all the introductions, will take questions. The Elks Lodge has 150 capacity for their fire codes and all of those things. So if we have a lot of people, we'll be counting heads at the door. But it's just a chance for everybody in the town to get a chance to meet all the candidates on an equitable platform that didn't cost anybody who is running any money to participate. So we hope to see you there. If you can't come in person, there is an online form that has been posted on as many different social media platforms as possible where you can submit questions in advance, and we'll be asking those at the evening as well.
Thank you.
So thank you all.
Thank you very much. Next item on the agenda is the MSBA, the High School Building Project. As the superintendent has mentioned, we're in sort of the final phases. The fields will start being built in the tennis courts and the basketball courts. And so the punch list will hopefully be gone through by the time we hit summer. And I can only hope and pray that this ends soon. We've all been here from the very beginning.
For sure.
So any questions about that? Again, we are under budget. We are not on time. COVID pushed us off time.
Well, this morning on the news, the new Lowell High School is $38 million over budget.
Exactly. Wow. Mainly because of steel.
A lot of increased construction costs.
Yeah. That's the way that the BP budget.
With that, Greg, your COVID subcommittee?
Yeah, so we did have a second subcommittee meeting on COVID issues. Basically all the issues we brought up the first time pretty much have been resolved. I think the biggest thing we heard was that there was a desire that how these policies were implemented, especially the masking policies and testing policies, that it just there should be more curriculum or training on how those get implemented. Because I think teachers all, they had their own reasons. And so I think the subcommittee heard that there should be something more formal. If this happens again, there should be more formal training on how those are implemented. We decided not to have another meeting because it seemed like everything had been resolved. Pretty much, the masking and the buses, all that stuff has been, not an issue at this point.
Thank you, sir. Next item is consent agenda. Chair will entertain a motion to approve the consent agenda.
So moved.
Second.
Doris, second, thank you. Just so everyone knows, this consent agenda includes meeting minutes and fundraisers at the Nichols and the high school. Any discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? It's unanimous. The last item I have for the agenda tonight is the superintendent's contract. I had, after the new superintendent's contract, for those who saw our last meeting, we voted to offer the position to Ms. Lyons, subject to negotiations. And then afterwards, we went into executive session. I met with the committee, and the committee outlined the parameters of the negotiations, and Ms. Lyons and I met, and we set up those parameters, and we turned the contract over to our attorneys, and they brought it back, and I gave it to the school committee before tonight to look at. For purposes of discussion, Chair will entertain a motion to approve the contract for the new superintendent.
So moved.
Do I hear a second?
Second.
Discussion. Just so everyone understands, the new superintendent's contract will begin July 1st, 2022, as the previous superintendent's contract ends. It's a 3-year contract. Her starting salary is $187,500. That was factored in based on the current superintendent's salary and reviewing comparisons for other both recent hires of superintendents in the area and presently seeking superintendents in the area. Her contract includes having to have a performance evaluation done by the committee, and she can get a raise based on the satisfactory performance of both her goals and the evaluation. As has been in the past, it outlines sort of the basic things that are requirements of the job and what superintendents are supposed to do. It sets up reimbursements for mileage, and it sets up different pieces that she's allowed to have, professional association dues, a computer, part of the state retirement system, how much we spend for professional development. We also included, as we did with the superintendent, when Mr. Lynch started, that she would attend the Mass Association of School Superintendents induction program, which is for first-time superintendents. It's now a 2-year program.
Yeah, it was last time.
Okay, was a 2-year program, so it's over the course of 2 years. She attends the program. I believe it's sort of classroom work, and also there's a mentor assigned to each of the superintendents.
Correct.
So it provides opportunities, and the committee agreed with that. Other than that, it's sort of the basic that you would see in any administrator's contract. Did any member of the committee have any questions or thoughts? Anyone in the audience have any questions or thoughts? Then with that, the chair would ask for a vote. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? It's unanimous. And at this point, I invite Ms. Lyons to come up and sign the contracts with me. Just so you know, I had to make one change because you're not a him.
Not presently. Nice. Thank you.
And just so you know, everyone, we signed 3 contracts, one for the district, one for the school committee, and one for Ms. Lyons. Yeah, I know. And last but not least. That's on top, and give you the last one. Welcome to the district.
Thank you.
So that one's yours. So with that, I've got to do this twice. As I said at the last week, I wasn't expecting to do this again. I had hoped Brian would last longer, but he's going to get that from me for a while. But I really appreciate all he's done for the district and how we've changed over a period of time. And I really look forward to Ms. Lyons and the next coming years. Very excited. And I know the committee is too. And with that, the chair will entertain a motion to adjourn. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Thank you, everybody. We'll see you first Thursday in April.